From the devastating rubble of the COVID-19 pandemic barely half a decade ago, a global economic giant is arising. Enter the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN. Since overtaking the European Union, EU, as China's top trading partner in 2021, this regional alliance has continued to grow in leaps and bounds that are now challenging the global economic hierarchy as we have known it. Boasting strategic geographic locations of her member states, ASEAN has become attractive to businesses eyeing global expansion. According to CGTN, over 70% of Chinese firms are looking to establish a presence in ASEAN nations. Moreover, her youthful population that is expected to peak at over 220 million by 2038 provides a vibrant labor force that could take generations to reckon with. However, the million-dollar question still remains. Is ASEAN on the verge of becoming a global superpower? Statistically speaking, the ASEAN region is on track to potentially surpass Europe as the world's largest economy. Based on projections, 2024's overall growth rate for the ASEAN nations is anticipated to reach 4.5%, representing an increase from last year's forecast of 4%. This increase is expected to be a result of resilient domestic demand, as well as improvement in exports of goods and services. When compared to Europe's 1% growth in 2023, it is clear to see why there is so much optimism around the ASEAN bloc's economic trajectory. A number of ASEAN central banks are also expected to commence easing monetary policy during 2024, which will help to provide some stimulus for economic growth. This expected growth trajectory underscores the region's robust economic performance, despite global challenges like the Ukraine-Russia and Israel-Palestine wars, which have adversely affected the European Union. Since the advent of these crises, Greece and Spain have experienced 1.2% and 1.1% GDP growth respectively, with the latter having a youth unemployment rate of 33%. Other European nations like Portugal are even doing worse with a growth rate of only 0.8% and a debt to GDP ratio of 122%. In contrast, the total nominal GDP of the 10 ASEAN nations measured in US dollar terms amounted to $3.6 trillion in 2022, more than doubling compared with total GDP of $1.6 trillion US dollars in 2009. The total size of the ASEAN economy was slightly larger than India in 2022, which had an estimated GDP of $3.5 trillion US dollars in that year. Despite the anticipation of an economic slowdown over the next 2 years, the Philippines was the fastest growing economy in the ASEAN bloc in 2023. Driven by a combination of robust domestic consumption, increased urbanization, a growing middle class, and a burgeoning service sector, this dynamic economy grew by 5.5% for the first 3 quarters of 2023. To put this into perspective, this rate even exceeded the growth rate of China, which stood at 5.2% over the same period. Meanwhile, the island nation of Indonesia posted an economic growth rate of 4.94% in the third quarter of 2023. With her inflation rate reaching as low as 2.56% in October 2023, this 78-year-old state is expected to continue the upward trajectory as domestic demand becomes her main economic driver, instead of commodity exports. Beyond the numbers, Indonesia's social indicators reflect significant progress, including a decrease in unemployment and poverty rates, highlighting the nation's multifaceted economic success. Often dubbed an economic tiger, Vietnam continues to roar with consistent economic expansion. Boasting a remarkable GDP growth rate of 5.05% in 2023, Vietnam's success story is propelled by a robust manufacturing sector, thriving exports, and a surge in foreign direct investment. The country's proactive economic reforms and trade liberalization efforts have also positioned her as one of the fastest growing economies in the region. Malaysia has also experienced significant economic growth, marked by a GDP growth rate of 6.7% in the third quarter of 2021 and 4% throughout 2023. Powered by export-oriented industries, a resilient domestic market, and strategic government initiatives, Malaysia's commitment to technological advancement has been the X factor in her rising. Even Thailand, despite her recent challenges, remains a vital contributor to ASEAN's economic advancement. With a GDP growth rate of 1.7% in the third quarter of 2023, Thailand's focus on infrastructure development, technological innovation, and a resilient agricultural sector continues to contribute to the region's overall stability. Despite impressive economic growth, ASEAN grapples with formidable challenges in its pursuit of surpassing Europe as the world's largest economy. Firstly, the region's diverse economic landscape, encompassing highly developed economies like Singapore and emerging ones like Cambodia and Myanmar, presents a substantial hurdle. Given that Singapore's GDP per capita is approximately $65,233, while that of Myanmar is about $1,434, bridging such economic disparities requires nuanced policies that may not be easy to formulate. Furthermore, geopolitical tensions like the dispute of the South China Sea pose a significant challenge to ASEAN's economic advancement. As a crucial trading partner, China's influence is substantial. As such, it is vital for ASEAN to strike a delicate balance between economic cooperation and geopolitical uncertainties. In 2020, China accounted for 15.1% of ASEAN's total trade, illustrating the region's dependence on stable relations. Infrastructure development stands out as another persistent challenge. While some ASEAN nations like Singapore and Indonesia possess robust infrastructure, others, including Myanmar and Brunei, face limitations hindering regional connectivity. Addressing these disparities is crucial, with an estimated $3.1 trillion required for infrastructure investment in the region by 2030 to bolster economic growth. The rapid pace of technological advancement is also a pressing challenge, necessitating swift adaptation to the fourth industrial revolution. Investing in innovation and research and development is imperative. In 2021, ASEAN countries collectively spent approximately $80 billion on research and development, reflecting a commitment to technologically creating a foundation for their economy to thrive in. Lastly, environmental sustainability also poses another challenge amid accelerated economic growth. As of 2020, ASEAN's carbon dioxide emissions reached Europe's 2.7 billion metric tons, underlining the risk of environmental degradation. With the European Green Deal helping Europe combat environmental degradation, ASEAN must come up with a strategic plan to mitigate the adverse ecological impacts of our economic expansion. Despite these challenges, ASEAN's commitment to collective problem-solving and regional cooperation positions it as a dynamic force. As the region addresses these hurdles, the ability to find innovative solutions will be pivotal in determining whether it can surpass Europe and emerge as the world's largest economy. As ASEAN solidifies its status as a thriving economic powerhouse, Europe is strategically responding to safeguard its economic interests. A pivotal element in Europe's response is the pursuit of robust trade relations with ASEAN nations. Recognizing ASEAN's economic potential, the European Union continues to actively engage in negotiating and implementing free trade agreements with ASEAN member states. The EU-Singapore Free Trade Agreement, in force since November 2019, exemplifies this commitment, providing a significant boost to bilateral trade. In 2021, the EU's total trade in goods like clothing and aromatic spices with ASEAN countries reached 280 billion euros, underscoring the intensifying economic collaboration. European participation in ASEAN-led forums and initiatives further highlights its commitment to fostering economic and diplomatic ties. The ASEAN-EU Business Summit and the ASEAN-EU Ministerial Meeting serve as crucial platforms for dialogue. This proactive engagement emphasizes Europe's acknowledgement of ASEAN's growing influence and its dedication to deepening partnerships. In 2020, the EU's foreign direct investment (FDI) stock in ASEAN amounted to 337 billion euros, reflecting a substantial economic footprint. This formed the basis for the ASEAN-EU Comprehensive Air Transport Agreement, the world's first block-to-block air transport agreement that was signed on 17 October 2022. Europe's investment strategies are also adapting to capitalize on ASEAN's economic growth. European businesses are increasingly entering ASEAN markets, with investments flowing into diverse sectors. Notably, in 2021, the EU's FDI outflows to ASEAN countries amounted to 18 billion euros, illustrating a heightened interest in tapping into the region's expanding consumer markets. Additionally, Europe is keenly observing the geopolitical landscape and collaborating with ASEAN on shared challenges. Issues such as climate change, sustainable development, and global trade dynamics serve as focal points for cooperation. This collaborative effort aligns with the global goals outlined in the 2015 Paris Agreement, where both Europe and ASEAN actively participate. In summary, Europe's response to ASEAN's economic growth is quantifiably evident through trade volumes, investment figures, and collaborative initiatives. The strategic approach, marked by active participation in forums, bilateral agreements, and increasing investments, underscores Europe's commitment to leveraging the economic opportunities arising from ASEAN's ascendancy. ASEAN member countries have extremely immense potential. However, to compete effectively with Europe, they need to focus on enhancing weaker economic areas such as infrastructure development, environmental sustainability, and digitization. These weaknesses are particularly evident in smaller ASEAN nations like Brunei, Myanmar, and Laos. To elevate their competitiveness, it's crucial for them to address these economic disparities and boost key sectors. On a positive note, ASEAN as a collective showcases strengths in specific areas where they are already competing well or even surpassing Europe. By acknowledging and addressing these aspects, ASEAN can further solidify its position in the global economic landscape.